In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to set your mill operation defaults. So the first thing you need to do to start is you need to select a machine. So it doesn't matter what machine you select, you just got to select something. Okay, so there we go. We got our Haas 3-axis mill. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Machine, and I'm going to click on Control Definition. Alright, that is going to bring up this dialog box, and on the left here under Control Topics, I can set my operation defaults. So if I click on that, it's going to bring up this list. These are all expanded because I obviously was in here setting these a while back. So let me close all these up. Okay, so this is kind of what it looks like. For some reason, it brings you into this, and you're like halfway down the list for some reason. I'm not sure why. But anyway, so we can start off with our properties. There's a couple things in here that we can actually set. So files, here you can add a comment that comes in every time you create a program. I don't have any comments that I want to put in there that are going to be the same every time, so I'm just going to leave that blank. I don't really want to put anything in there. I can do my feed calculation for all of my files. I can make it come from the tool, which is actually what I recommend, because that way you can create a tool library for steel, aluminum. That's how I like to do it anyway. Steel or aluminum. You could also do it from material. That's another good way of doing it. It just depends on what you prefer. And we'll go over how to set up tool feeds and speeds at a later date. Default program number, you can set that. So I have that defaulting to 25,000. And assign tool numbers sequentially. What this does, you may have noticed that when you create a program and you select tools, it gives you the tool number of whatever it's set to in the Mastercam tool library. A lot of times you end up with tools that are like tool 293 or something like that. This will actually renumber your tools. So whichever one you bring in first will be tool tool 1. Whichever one you bring in second will be tool 2. Whichever one you bring in third will be tool 3, and you get the point. So this is really handy. Warn of duplicate tool numbers. This shouldn't happen if you have this one clicked, but I leave it on anyway just in case. So those are really the only two that I put on here. I don't have the override values on, and of course I do actually have the material selected to aluminum 6061. If I go to select and I go to my mill library, I can select basically about any, well, not any, but a lot of different materials in here. The reason I select 6061 is just because I feel like that's the one that I probably cut the most, so I have to change it the least. So that's the reason that that's selected. So I try to keep this set to whatever I am cutting the most. Your stock setup. So this is an interesting one that you can change as well. If you're anything like me, a lot of times when you put your stock value and you always forget to hit display. I always forget to click that. So a way that we can have that default to on, if I just click this on and I hit check, this will disappear because there's no stock to display. So I do need to put in a display. So I'm just going to put 1.0, 1.0, 1.0. Now every time that I create a new file, it's going to give me stock of 1 by 1 by 1, which doesn't really matter. I'm probably going to resize it anyway at some point, because very rarely is it ever set to 1.1.1. So I'm just going to set to that just for the simple reason that it should be set to that just to keep this display on. Also, I'm going to set my coordinates to this upper left-hand corner because that's where my 0 is typically. So I'm going to hit check, and that should update that. And then, as usual, I have a lot of these set. So if you go into this, like the pocket, you can see I have zeros in for leave on the wall. I have finishing pass on. I have the coolant automatically telling it to come on. So if I have that set, then what I'll do is I'll go into one of the ones that I don't have set, and I actually cleared this one out so that I can demonstrate this. This is the contour. You can see here, like my flood coolant is actually marked off, and I'm going to hit on. Cut parameters. Okay, so normally I use wear, so I'm going to put wear on. I'm going to make these zeros. And I'm going to change my lead-ins to maybe 10% rather than 100. And linking parameters, they're all absolute. So that looks good. So I'm going to hit check. And there we go. Oh, well, you know what? Yes, I do want to save it. So let's see if that actually worked. First off, let's do a... Let me go back in there quick. Let's see if it took. So if we go into Contour, take a look at that. We should have our coolant. Okay, so it didn't take because I didn't hit save. I forgot to hit save. So make sure you hit save, which I'll show you here in a second. Lead in, this should be 10, 10. This should be on where. This should be on 0. That should be on 0. I'm going to hit check. Go into my stock. 1.0, 1.0, 1.0. Hit display. Tool settings. Everything in there looks good. Okay, so that's all set. I'm going to hit check. Now I want to hit save default settings. Make sure I hit that, and it should flash down at the bottom there that it's saved. So I'm going to hit check. Yes, I want to save it. And now it should have saved. So let's call up a new one, and let's see if we can get this to work. Okay, so there you see my stock popped up, and if I run a quick contour here, check, and it should have my coolant on. It does. My zeros should be in here. If there's leave on the walls, where is on. So that's it. Basically, that's all you have to do to set your operation defaults for the mill. Just make sure you hit that save button, because if you accidentally don't hit that, it won't update them. As always, if you have any questions, you can see me during my office hours, or of course you can come and see me during class. There will be a video coming out shortly to show you how to do the tool speeds and feeds and set those up.